Does what is happening right now in conference realignment play out differently if the Power Five had agreed to go to, I believe it was a 12-team proposal that was on the table? Would a 12-team college football playoff being locked in have prevented or altered in some way these moves we just saw in your mind?
No, I think that it might have delayed them, but I don't think that it would have solved all the issues. And I remember that was one of the popular sentiments. Several, well-informed national writers came out right off the jump and said that the ACC and the Pac-12 screwed this up by agreeing along with the Big Ten to vote against it. The final vote was 8-3, which Notre Dame voted for, along with 7 other conferences, and then the 3 no's were the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12. The Big Ten's motivations, from my viewpoint, is that when you agreed to the expansion in that window, it meant ESPN owned it. ESPN was going to have all the games of the 12-team playoff, and the Big Ten, as we know, is very much in bed, controlled, and being advised by Fox. Fox did not want the college football playoff to expand before 2026, because then it would mean ESPN, which had just landed the SEC for all of its media rights, was now going to also have the college football playoff. It meant ESPN was essentially going to control college football. So Fox wanted to make sure that this thing was going to be able to go open to market, that they were going to be able to have a say here. And the only way that was going to happen was as long as the college football playoff contract ran out all the way until 2026. And so they were able to obviously convince the Big Ten, but then the Big Ten also is able to, I don't want to say the Big Ten convinced the ACC and the Pac-12, but that was a popular narrative right after the decision was ACC and Pac-12, which obviously got stabbed in the back by losing USC and UCLA, and the ACC, which now finds itself on a little bit of a, rocky footing, I guess you could say, in terms of the overall college landscape, that you could have maybe prevented this if you just let it expand. I don't agree with that notion. I think that the move by ACC and by the Pac-12 to vote against the college football playoff was that just sensing that there was a little bit of a runaway train in college football in general, that they wanted to slow things down. Now, I never put anything into the scheduling aspect of the alliance. Right. I never put anything into the idea that there was going to be some alliance invitational. I only viewed it as a voting block that they put together just to prevent the SEC from basically controlling college football and ESPN from controlling college football for the next 12 years.
Chip Patterson joining us from CBS Sports. What is the next move as you see to happen? We heard reported yesterday that the Big 12 is eyeing 4 to 6 Pac-12 teams. Is that a move that you think is like imminent, or was that just a power play to announce that while the Pac-12 was power positioning by saying that they're opening their media negotiations immediately? Is there a chance that all 5 leagues survive? What's the next move, and then what do you think is the shakeout? And when we get to 2 to 3 years now, whenever this is considered this round, I'm putting Oklahoma and Texas in the same round of realignment as UCLA, USC. So what's the next move in this round, and then where are we when the dust settles in this round in your mind?
I do not believe anything is imminent unless Notre Dame wants to make a decision. My understanding is that the Big Ten will not make another move until it hears back from Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is never, ever been in a rush to work on anyone's schedule but Notre Dame's schedule. I think that for those Pac-12 schools, the reason they are going into these media rights negotiations is so that they can know what's behind both doors. So that Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, heck, even, Washington and Oregon, which I think Washington and Oregon would much rather be in the Big Ten, but the Big Ten's not going to invite Washington and Oregon and expand further unless they know that they are going to go for an even bigger move here. They're just going to sit back. If Notre Dame wants to go, then maybe that initiates another wave where we see Washington, Oregon, Stanford, Notre Dame all join the league, and then all of a sudden the Big Ten finally gets to be the Big 10-10, a.k.a. the Big 20. Big 12 is being aggressive. The Big 12 is going to try to do everything it can to go out there. Remember, hey, where did their new commissioner come from? Rock Nation, baby. I'm telling you, he's coming for them. He's going to go out there, and he is going to try to make a splash. He's going to try to be the Mr. Entertainment, shaking up college sports, want to be the visionary. And for him to take a league which by the way, Big 12 schools were talking to the Pac-12 about joining the Pac-12 a year ago, and the Pac-12 said no. Said none of y'all provide enough value. So the Big 12, I think, is looking at the Phoenix market from a television perspective, Arizona State. I think it's looking at Utah, which not only would bring Salt Lake City, but gives BYU, which is going to be a member
in the Big 12,
a nice travel partner there in the Big 12. And now the Holy War becomes a conference rivalry. And of course, Colorado is your old lover, just getting back together with somebody who you've already had a previous relationship with. Those four, like if you would ask me to predict of all the things that are being rumored, those four seem like they are not imminent, but they are moves that I could see happening, as you said, when the dust settles. But as we sit here discussing this today, those schools are also still trying to talk to the Pac-12 to at least see what staying together would look like financially, while the Big 12 is going to be trying to make their pitch as well.
Chip Patterson from CBS Sports. I'm going to ask him another when the dust settles question. A lot of it's trying to guess. Again, and I'm not, I said this earlier, I'm not knocking anybody who's talking about what are the rumors. Like right now, Virginia fans and UNC fans and Duke fans and NC State fans are all looking where they are or aren't potentially being included, or where, you see fans of those schools declaring like, well, I'd rather be in the SEC or I'd rather be in the Big Ten, whether it's warranted or not. Now, again, the reporters who are reporting on it are talking to ADs or members of people who run the Big Ten, the ACC, and the SEC, and asking who are the programs that still have value, and they're naming North Carolina and Virginia, Notre Dame. So I'm not saying that they're creating, they're making stuff up, but just that it isn't a matter of next week are we going to see UNC in the Big Ten or the SEC? It's going to be one of those two, right? Like I don't think we're quite at that point.
The no bad ideas portion of the proceedings.
Yeah, yes.
That everyone's sitting around and it's on Zoom or whatever their proprietary Zoom function is that they're using, but they are sitting around and they are saying, all right, there are no bad ideas. And they are big meetings with lots of ideas. And so when it gets leaked to a reporter that something was considered, guess what? It was considered with 99 other ideas.
Right.
And so that's why I have a lot of patience to any of these reports, because the more research I've done, the serious moves, the ones that result in action are kept very, very close with a small circle until they are done.
That's the other thing. It's almost like a mobster, getting hit versus getting caught by the police, right? Like if it's like, dude, if it was a hit, I would have seen it coming. Like that, the police are like clumsy and they're yelling like, get out now, right? Like if it's a rumor, you're hearing all about it, and probably isn't true. If it was going to happen, you wouldn't have heard about it in a rumor first. That's a very good point.
So it like for 6 to 8 weeks to put together the USC to UCLA deal, the total number of people involved, like handfuls, at each of those two universities and even within the Big Ten. And then you finally got to the final 2 weeks where they brought in full calls with all the membership of like university presidents, one last call with athletic directors like 3 days before the deal went down. Like there's just no way that, is it possible that something that is reported from one of these no bad ideas sessions does happen? Yeah,
sure.
But to your point, it's like it's not imminent if we're hearing it now, because it just means that it's something that's being talked about during one of these anything goes, let's map out all of our options. When it comes time to really put things together, it's normally held pretty tight until right before things go down.